Today is 17th Sunday after Pentecost, and the Gospel is taken from the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 21, verses 23 to 32. Authority is the theme running throughout today's Gospel. More often than not, we are confused about authority. We misunderstand it to be based on credentials and exercise, years of education, success and accomplishments, status and reputation, or the position held in relationship to another. We assume that authority comes from outside a person and it is given them by their circumstances. In this understanding, some have authority and others do not. I still remember when I used a phrase from my childhood, "You are not the boss of me." Later we changed it with another phrase, "Who do you think you are?" or "What gives you right to tell me what to do?" That represents our usual way of understanding authority issues. We don't like someone else teaching us, correcting us, or telling us what to do. We hear that in the challenge of the chief priests and elders to Jesus. By what authority are you doing these things, and who gave you this authority? We see it in the refusal of the two sons to go to the vineyard. There is, however, another authority issue at play in today's Gospel. That issue is our failure and sometimes our refusal to recognize, claim, and exercise the authority within us to go to the vineyard. That's the authority issue I believe that this Gospel is holding for us today. So let me push you a little bit on these authority issues, okay? If you think God is the boss of you, you've misunderstand authority. Let go of that idea. God is not the boss of you. God is not the boss of me. God is not the boss of us. God is our author. Every day, God authorizes us to enter and sends us into His vineyard to act in this world with His authority and on His behalf through the gifts He has bestowed upon each one of us. True authority always comes from within. It is the interior God-given quality, not an exterior circumstances. That's what the chief priests and elders failed to understand. They chose to exchange their God-given authority for human power. Sometimes we do too. That's what's happening in much of our world today. In the absence of true authority, there will always be power struggles. Look at the wars through the world. Look at the conflicts in your own relationship. Those are about power, not authority. Some leaders expose power, but very few exercise authority. In the exercise of power, we'll look to our own interests, but in the exercise of authority, we'll look to the interests of others. Think about the people who hold authority for you. They are not concerned about themselves. They do not dominate or control you. They inspire you. They call forth from you faith, hope, and trust. They expand your world, open the new possibilities, and bring forth life and gifts in yourself that you never knew were there. They cause you to re-evaluate your life, change your mind, and live differently. That sounds an awful lot like Jesus, and it's very different from those who exercise power. I had a friend, his name was Kazimieras Manglitsas. I will always remember and I give thanks for his authority. 8 years ago I went to his funeral believing that I was the most important person in his life. When I got there I realized everyone there do the same thing about themselves. That was not manipulation of my friend Kazimier's part. It was his authority. His silence, listening, presence, and wisdom were not just his personality traits, they were the divine attributes in his life, gifts God had bestowed upon him, that created space and place for me and for others, that invited us to upon him to discover our own authority, that showed us the way to the vineyard of our lives. All authority originates in God, that is not exercised to God. God shared his authority with us. The authority God shared with us is nothing less than his own divine attributes. It is expression and manifestation of God's life in and through our own. That means every one of us has authority. As your priest, I do not have more authority than you. I do not have better authority than you. I just have a different authority. God gives us each gifts an authority unique to our lives. God is generous with the gifts he gives and the authority he shares. We all have God-given gifts and authority. There is no one without authority. The difference isn't that some have authority and others don't. The difference is that some recognize and exercise their authority and others do not. Regardless, God knows and sees the authority he has given us and waits for us to see and know it too. And when we do, we change our mind and go to the vineyard. So, what is the authority God has given you? What gifts, what divine attributes has God bestowed upon you? Are you living from that authority and sharing those gifts? Amen.